Hey guys, and welcome back. So, very exciting time to be a Harlequin player indeed. If you haven't seen the new White Dwarf rules yet, I would definitely advise you to go and check them out. The leaks are everywhere, everyone is excited. I'm very excited. This has been a really good update for us. It's given us some fantastic new rules that basically play to our strengths, rather than just sort of trying to mitigate our weaknesses, which is really nice to see. They're very thematic, very fluffy little changes. So I'm just going to go over a couple of things just in general, but soon I will be doing a much more in-depth look at these new changes. So first of all, let's go through a couple of the stratagems. So we've got the Foes of the Mind, which is so good. So Shadow Seers now can basically extend their aura to all units. So not just to infantry, but to all units. So bikes being the obviously optimum thing, transports, it's looking good. Mythic Roll is something a little bit more fluffy. It helps those soup lists, giving some rerolls from the Shadow Seer as well. We've got the Eye of Damnation, which I personally don't think is all that important, but if your Solitaire dies, you can do some mortal wounds. Why not? And we've got Virtuosos of the Webway, which is a very interesting stratagem where we can basically pick something up and put it somewhere else, which is always good. That movement-based stuff is what we excel at, and now I think it's going to be very difficult to tie down a Harlequin's army. Looking at the next one, we have Pivotal Roll. Now I'm going to talk about that one a little bit more in a moment, because that is a new system that we have, which allows us to upgrade and personalize our characters, which is really nice. Polychromatic Storm is an interesting one as well, because again, it's a lot about redeploy. So we can basically, again, pick stuff up and put them where we want them before the battle. So it's more about trying to, let's say, outthink your opponent in terms of the deployment. But always useful. Murderous Entrance is a new one that gives us +1 damage, which, thinking about stuff like a 12-man troop with Kisses or Caresses, or a 6-man bike squad with Zephyr Glaives and Frozen Stars, makes us have an extraordinary amount of damage output, which is incredible. The Curtain Falls is one of the ones that everyone is raving about because it's amazing. Essentially, when you would consolidate, instead, you can either fall back or you can just move, which is pretty amazing given things like the Twilight Pathways already on a bike unit, double moving, killing something, and moving again. That's a 66-inch movement altogether from what I can remember. I might be wrong there, don't quote me on that. And then Twilight Encore. This has been causing quite a stir, and it is definitely something that is very useful for our troops. It does only affect our troops, but essentially, when an enemy unit falls back, we can consolidate 6 inches instantly, holding something in combat, even dragging other things in there. This is so good. It's so good. When you combine that with something like a fight again strat, we're talking serious potential there. So some really nice new stratagems, which I am pretty happy about. We've also got some new relics. Just have a look. Oh yeah, I love the new relics. I think they're fantastic. So we've got the Shadow Zone for the Shadow Seer. So we add 3 inches to the range of the aura abilities and to all of the spell ranges, which is really good, really good, particularly with that whole, we can now give the aura to everything and not just to infantry. And we have Kokorak's Lament. I thought Curtain Fall was good until I saw this. I've always loved Curtain Fall. I love my Death Jesters. I'd even consider just having like 2 relic slots just for my DJs now, with one with Curtain Fall and one with this, just for fun, I think, because it looks amazing. So Kokorak's Lament. It's basically an upgraded Shrieky Cannon, and it's hilarious. It can do flat 3 damage It does D3 mortal wounds for every single time, and when combined with a particular pivotal role that we're going to look at in a moment, it's devastatingly powerful. Then we also have one, the Twilight Fang, which is for Troop Master. What's nice about this one is that you don't actually have to pay for it, because it can replace a Harlequin's Blade, or you can have a Power Sword, and then you can kind of choose, dependent on your opponent, whether or not you're going to have the sword or this one. This one is nice. +2 strength, -3 AP, and +2 damage. And you get an additional number of attacks depending on the current battle round, which is pretty nice, you know. And then you've got your Frozen Stars as well, so that's an extra attack. So we're talking 7 attacks turn 1, 8 attacks turn 2. There's a reason to want to keep your Troop Masters alive for as long as possible with this, because by the end of it, he's an absolute beast. And then when we add the rolls, even better. The Veil of Tears, which is we can, the first time we fail a saving throw, we can just treat it as it hasn't been failed, which could be pretty nasty on something like a Solitaire, who already has a 3-up inbound save, and then it's like, oh, I rolled a 2, but I'm just going to ignore it. Then we have the Domino Shroud, which I think is it's just broken. I mean, it's only one use, which is kind of like quite an expensive use when you're thinking about the amount of relics that we can have. But it basically, at the end of any phase, you can just pick up a character and just put him wherever. So at the end of the charge phase, you can just go, oh, yeah, you charged me. So, complete your charges. Oh, but before you fight, bye. Love it. And also really, really good for things like objective grabbing and just denying your opponent points in ITC. Really good. And then Destiny's Jest, we can add basically 1 to our attack, strength, toughness, wounds, move, or armor penetration, which is also pretty nice. So that gives you a few options. You can make a very, very fast moving Troop Master, for example, to keep up with all those auras. You can make a really, really killy Troop Master as well, if you're perfectly happy to keep something like a Kiss or a Caress. Useful. I don't think it's my favorite, but it's useful. Looking at this last part, which is just for me the most exciting and just the most fun, fluffy thing, and yet wholly powerful thing. Now we have these pivotal roles. So you basically can replace the existing ability, or you can spend a CP to add the ability to the existing ability, which on your Troop Masters I would definitely recommend, because you still want to be able to reroll wounds. On your Shadowseer, you still want to be able to give -1 to wound, particularly with that new stratagem. On your Death Jester, that's found money. On your Solitaire, yeah, you might want to keep Blitz, and then you add one of these in there as well. But let's have a look very, very quickly. Troop Master, the Prince of Light, you get to re-roll failed charge rolls for everyone within 6 inches, but if combined with the Player of Light, where you can already do that, you can add 1 to the charge roll instead. Useful for getting things like big units of troops into combat from Deep Strike. So Veiled Path is going to be an interesting one nowadays. I think it definitely has game. Darkness's Bite, or Darkness Bite. At the end of, after your Troop Master has fought, you can target a unit with this, and it suffers 2 mortal wounds, 4 if you fight twice. That's nice. I like it for kind of hold clearance, that kind of idea. Twilight's Grasp. Oh, this one's so good. So if something isn't a monster or a vehicle, you basically always wound on a 2+. Oh, so good. So just thinking about the idea of, the Great Harlequin Troop Master with the new relic. So always hitting on 2s, re-rolling. Always wounding on 2s, re-rolling. -3 AP, and then +2 damage. It's pretty tasty. Then the Shadowseer. Shadowseers are now one of the most competitive characters in the game and are absolutely necessary. You're going to want 1 or 2, depending on how you want to play this. The Veil of Illusion. This basically means that everyone within 6 inches of your Shadowseer, your masks, counts as being 6 inches further away in terms of range by any opponent shooting units. What is the distance of a Flamer? 8 inches? now it's 2. You basically don't get to shoot. If you're in a mirror match or you're facing someone with fusion pistols, you have a 0-inch range. Take that, my friend. I love it. And it also gives us a huge amount of damage mitigation, like at the beginning. So we've always struggled with that turn 1. If we don't get turn 1, we get shot so much that we can't then fight back. And this helps to mitigate that. Gloomwake, yeah, it's +1 to, it's basically cover out in the open. Can be useful for things like, you know, your Skyweavers, your Starweavers, etc., getting a 3-up armor save, but everything has -1 now anyway, so, or not everything, but a lot of things do, so could help against some small arms fire, but this one's not so exciting. Agent of Bedlam is hilarious against stuff like, you know, Blood Angels or whatever, because, oh yeah, you get loads of extra attacks, but now you're going to reduce the attacks characteristic of that model within 6 inches. So good, so many different things that you can do with that. Death Jesters. I'm so happy. I love Death Jesters, as you guys probably know. They're probably my favourite thing in the game. I love them. Maybe it's because I have a dark sense of humour from growing up in England, who knows. Anyway, Harvester of Torment. This is the one that we want to combine with that relic. Every hit basically counts as 3 hits. You cannot combine it with my favourite stratagem, an example made, unfortunately. That would just be ridiculous. But already scoring 3 hits with a relic that does flat 3 damage, and then for every single one of those doing D3 mortal wounds is just hilarious. I love it. Anyway, and then the Just Inescapable, which is you add 12 inches to the range characteristic, and an unmodified wound roll of a 6 inflicts 1 mortal wound in addition. Yeah, it's okay. If you've got 3 Death Jesters, take it. Why not? Could be useful on your Shuriken profile. Thinking about it, Shuriken profile, then an example made, potentially 6 hits with, you know, 1 or 2 mortal wounds. It's alright. And then Humbling Cruelty. Oh, that's so good. When someone's hit with this weapon, they reduce their movement by 2 inches and they can't fire Overwatch. So with Silent Shroud, a Death Jester with Humbling Cruelty, and the Starmist Raiment, you can deny Overwatch 3 times. Which is just, yeah, have fun with that, Tau players and Imperial gun lines. Solitaire. Shocking Emergence. Essentially, you can deep strike this model, and you roll an additional d6 when you make a charge roll, and then you can discard one of the dice, i.e. the lowest result. So that's quite nasty. It's like it's definitely going to replace splits there at that point, because it's a different way of emerging. I'm probably still not going to use this one because we have Hero's Path, so I'm just like... Chromatic Rush. Yeah, flat 6 advance. And you can consolidate an additional 3 inches, which if you want to do a Midnight Sorrow Solitaire, consolidating 9 inches, and then if he dies, he just kills everything anyway, is going to be an interesting little bullet. And then Unnatural Acrobatics, where you reduce 1 from any attacks against your Solitaire. So you get a Blitzing Solitaire that's already -1, then you put the 2 -1 spells in there, so then he's already at -3, and then you pop the strap for -4, which makes him almost untargetable. Then you give him the Suit of Hidden Knives and just have fun watching orcs fall on their own swords. I'm really happy. I'm going to go into a lot more depth soon. Hopefully I've got something a little bit special lined up for you guys, which might not be appearing on this channel, but it will be appearing. And yeah, I'm really, really happy. Let me know what combinations you guys have come up with. I think this has catapulted us into competitive play again. We are now a competitive army again. And I'm very happy, as you might be able to tell. Thanks guys. Let me know in the comments down below what crazy combos have you come up with already. Would love to hear them. And if you've got any other comments on all of this, let me know down below. Thank you very much. This has been Kit. about to probably go and enjoy a glass of champagne and, you know, kind of almost jumping for joy. Thanks a lot. See you next time.